Je suis connecté.
Let's kindly mute when we step in. Let's kindly mute our mic. So permit me to kickstart this conversation today, this dialogue today, in the next 2 minutes. Not really giving credence to latecomers to virtual events, but being considerate that technology sometimes do have their own life. So maybe some people are struggling to join and the network is not all that stable. So this excuse given to those that will be joining us in the next 2 minutes. So we kickstart the conversation, which I believe will be very informative and make some high-level impact on how we see trade and technology, AI, blockchain, and the future of trade in Africa. In the next 1 minute now, in the next 1 minute, we kickstart this conversation. So please just sit back and promise me one thing, that you're not going to leave this webinar until we say we are done. Because from the beginning to the end, you will get it valuable, because there are 1 or 2 things that you will learn from the beginning to the end. So don't jump out, except your network. But anyway, network is not going to fail us today. Thank you very much. Wow, top of the hour, 2 minutes past 5 minutes past 2 p.m. Now it all depends on where each of us are. In this day and age, my 2 p.m. is someone's 4 p.m. My 2 p.m. is someone's 8 p.m. My 2 p.m. is someone's 8 a.m. So my name is Sand Mbakalo. I'm the founder of International Trade Research Center. I will be giving you opening remark today. Of course, my colleague Peter Enyang, who is a faculty member of the International Trade Research Center, will be moderating today's session. Permit me to say, first of all, where I am now is afternoon. I say good afternoon to you all. And probably someone in Middle East, which I know one of our panelists is in the Middle East. I guess it's afternoon as well. So someone in the global north, US, Canada, good morning. Someone in India, say good evening. Someone in some part of Africa, say good evening to you too. So it is always an honor to coordinate these dialogues that we have series of, and today's own, as we also can see, is TradeTech in Africa, AI, blockchain, and the future of trade in Africa. What does this really mean? Every day we see one jargon coming up. TradeTech. What is TradeTech again? What is AI? What is blockchain? I know some of us here are aware of these words, these terms, but today we are saying technology is here. Where is the position of Africa in all this? New trade architecture is being defined. The interoperableness of this technology and making it inclusive is ongoing. So, by the way, International Trade Research Center, we are a public policy research analysis and engagement organization think tank. Do you see that word? Public policy research analysts and engagement organization. We're a knowledge-based organization. So within us, we have like four centers. We have the African International Party Center, which some of us might familiar ourselves with. We do this All African IP Summit event, which is our flagship event. We have the African Cotton Textile and Apparel Center. We have the Green Economy Center, and now we have the Digital Economy Center, the organizers of today's virtual dialogue, and which Enyang is the person in charge. We're at a time where trade uncertainty is commonplace. From using the beautiful word of tariff to someone giving 100% tariff levy. So many things are happening in the trade ecosystem. And TradeTech has been seen offering solution to cut custom times, clearance times, and the hours, and make the value chain simple. This is unlocking a mass opportunity in trade finance. It's making it possible for small businesses to be able to access finance and as well as to import and export with ease. Because AI has come to stay. Anyone that thinks AI is not going to go is living in the past or living in denial. But for Africa, the stake is now high. Where is the continent in all this happening, where technology is making clearance of goods within seconds, cutting hours, cutting days that used to be? Single window happening where you with just one form, you see everything, you see your goods moving. But Africa is not leaving itself behind. Africa is also trying to catch up with what is going on. But we cannot continue catching up. We have to also create solutions where the globe will also benefit from. So AfCFTA gives Africa that platform, and it became interesting where we have AfCFTA Digital Trade Protocol that has been adopted and accepted, which came into force and is now active in 2024. This is just special last day. And a lot of things that happened as an organization, as individual. We've been working on different elements of this protocol, making it easy for government to comply. But this dialogue, we have leaders that have practically thrown themselves in, people we call it pioneers, people doing one or two things that we are going to learn from. As I say, today, we're going to be showcasing what is happening in AI and how we believe the future of Africa will look like. It's an ambitious future, it's an ambitious move for some of the presenters, but as I said, promise me and promise yourself that you will not leave this chat room, you will not leave this virtual dialogue, because you have information that will be impactful to you that you can use and implement, and as well as come back and seek for more clarification. It will be more of a conversational discussion, because the chapter Africa has opened to is like we must be focused, but it's the future will be driven by ideas, and technology will back those ideas. So you can think something, and technology will give you a solution on how to make it real. Ladies and gentlemen, my distinguished panelists, thank you very much for honoring us, for accepting our invitation to be one of the panel and to share your idea and what you have already started implementing with our guests, because we know we have in the room, we have people that are our fans, because they know we organize events that is always informative and also as well as educating. So thank you very much for making time to join us again today. I'm looking forward to the discussions. And at this point, I welcome my colleague, Peter Inyang, to take over as he moderates the session today. Thank you very much, everyone. By the way, there's house rule. Although Peter is going to give it to us, the house rule, and if you have questions, you raise your hand at some point, we'll call you up. Thank you very much. Peter, over to you. You are muted.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Sand. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. And a special thank you to the Digital Economy Center and the International Trade Research Center for bringing all of us together for this timely discussion. So good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Inyang, and I am honored to be your moderator for this discussion. Okay, so as Dr. Sand noted earlier in his opening remarks, we know that we have a historic opportunity with the Digital Trade Protocol. And we know that this protocol really, in principle, is designed to help all of us align our systems across Africa and scale digital solutions. But again, I believe what the AU is trying to do is open up that single digital market for Africa. And this Digital Trade Protocol is a foundational piece of that. So we also know that trade in Africa is facing a lot of challenges when it comes to, and my senior colleague has highlighted a few of these when it comes to customs processing times, when it comes to trade finance. And that is one area that we are hoping that AI, blockchain, can address trade finance gap in Africa. We are told it's about $81 billion. That's a lot of money. So that's one area. So anyway, today we are going to be moving beyond the technical jargon, and we are going to be exploring how these transformative technologies, AI, blockchain, Internet of Things, they are not just for the leading economies of the world, but they are already a practical reality for Africa. And our panelists today will be talking about that. So our goal for this webinar, we want to turn these ideas into actionable strategies for policymakers, innovators, and businesses. We have a fantastic group of experts with us today. And in order to ensure that we get to hear from all of them and have time for your questions as well, we'll begin with a brief round of presentations. We will give each of our panelists a maximum of 10 minutes to share their perspectives and introduce themselves, after which we will dive into a moderated discussion. Now, to our esteemed panelists, I'll ask you to briefly introduce yourselves before starting your presentation. First, we have Chimene Nwoka. He is the co-founder and CEO of Breeze Africa. He'll be sharing his thoughts with us on the essential frameworks, legal and technological, that are crucial for enabling digital trade across the continent. So, Mr. Chimene, over to you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I think San said we are in different parts of the world, so good morning to as well and good evening. But my name is Chimene Nwoka. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Breeze. We're a technology company building technology solutions for trade. Our core mission is to trade for businesses to trade, and we're building an operating system for digital trade so that businesses can be connected but more importantly, transactions are transparent. So it's a pleasure to be here today and to also speak with the amazing panelists, and I look forward to the conversation today. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chimene. I'll move over to Olivier Bruzo. He is the CEO of Trading Loop. It's an AI-powered trade orchestration platform. So Mr. Olivier will be telling us all about that, and he'll be introducing himself as well. So Olivier, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter. Delighted to be with you. I'm sharing a screen here. If you can see, Trading Loop is an online B2B platform for traders, which is AI-enabled and has a motto of enabling speed at the ambition of people. And therefore, we have to realize that, of course, Africa is a fantastic continent. It's a continent of youth, it's a continent of dynamism, but its growth and ambitions by a lot of factors that slow down its activities, delays, resulting in lost opportunities, lost sales. And therefore, we need to understand what are the root causes behind. And there are 5 of them. Onboarding of the different partners, building trust together, verifying documents, moving money, exchanging money into currencies within the continent and intercontinental as well. And of course, when there are problems, the legal system is not always sufficient, and therefore trust is not there to enable the trade. How do we solve it? We solve it by taking the perspective of optimizing and amplifying trade cash flows, by doing it end to end. It's not
sorry, Oliver. Sorry, Oliver. The idea is for us to just introduce yourself. We're going to come back to your presentation. So Toby just give his own perspective, then we'll then take it round. We're going to delve into your presentation after the 3 panelists have given an insight about themselves. Then we'll come back to that. Is that okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that, Olivia. I'll just we'll come back to you shortly. Okay, so Mr. Toby is the founder of Lagos School of Export Management. I'll let Toby introduce himself, and then we'll go back to presentations, and we'll start with Chimene. So, Toby, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you really very much. So, good afternoon, everyone. From Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Toby Deli. Like I was introduced, I work with Lagos School of Export Management, where we teach international trade and export management. And apart from that, I've been an active exporter since 2018. I've been exporting to different countries in which I've encountered different challenges. So as an active exporter, I'm really excited about this dialogue because I'll be talking much from the perspective of the common exporter or of the average exporter on the road. Not all exporters know how to use technologies such as these. Not all farmers even have mobile phone, smartphone devices that we are using here right now. So it's something that I'm really excited that we are going to be having this dialogue today. Thank you very much for the invite, Mr. Sant, and to the team entirely.
Okay, Toby, thank you so much. All right, now we'll have the presentations, and let's start with Chimene again. Your presentation first, please.
Okay. I believe my screen is sharing. So
yeah,
we are Breeze, Team Breeze, and what we do is we build solutions to power trade and accelerate growth. But the topic today is about trade tech in Africa. So we're going to talk about digital trade, and I think it's important to start with the legal foundations of digital trade. We've looked at blockchain, and we all know historically what regulators, not just on the continent, but across, feel about blockchain. And so it's very important that we understand what are the legal foundations for trade tech. So we have a few MLETR. What is MLETR? So everyone in trade tech has been talking about MLETR. We need to adopt MLETR. MLETR is the model law on electronic transferable records. It was developed by United Nations, and we have every single country, or most countries, signatory to the law, but not all have adopted it. It's built on English common law, but essentially what it does is that it says digital paper can also be used for trade transactions or has the same legal equivalence as physical paper under certain rules and conditions. Rules and conditions that give ownership that give title of ownership that allows things for transference of ownership, as well as verification of ownership in there. And this can be used for trade transactions. So Toby mentioned that he's an importer, he's an exporter, so he would know some of these documents. And trade is document heavy. So you're going to deal with invoices, bills of lading, even your documentary credits, and then this needs to be constantly verified, just like Olivier's company does. So what MLTR says is that there are under some certain conditions you could allow for digital paper to be used for trade transactions. It was adopted in 2017. Singapore was the first country to work with it, adopt it, and has been an innovator in digital trade. But other countries have been adopting it as well. So we have the United Kingdom, they adopted in 2023, United Arab Emirates, and Mauritius just last month adopted it. So today, Hong Kong is talking about adopting it today, and India as well. So this gives the first foundation of recognizing paper, recognizing digital assets for transactions, and allows things for tokenization to be built on top of it. It's the perfect technology that can use this. But then we have the Afreximbank's model law on factoring. This law is essentially saying that for trade transactions, you could use paper or invoices as collateral as opposed to other hard assets. But then this is a digital age. Nobody's going to be sending invoices paper, but gives rules that could be used for factoring as well as reverse financing or open accounting transactions. But more interestingly, we have the ICC rules. So ICC is the International Chamber of Commerce. It gives legal framework for most trade transactions across the world. And you have the EUCP and the EURC. So what's EUCP and EURC? EUCP is talking about documentary collections, documentary credit, and EURC is talking about documentary collections. So you've probably heard of letters of credit and other documentary credits like bills of exchange, promissory notes that are used for trade transactions. And there are lots of them. Letters of credit themselves have different types: standby, bank guarantees, deferred payments, site LCs, but then they all follow established rules. Typically, everyone expects LCs to be done on SWIFT. That's the network of banks. But then LCs are also done on paper. In fact, the business of banking started out with letters of credit. When you go to Florentine, Italy, the big banks back then, the Medicis and the likes, built their business on trade and letters of credit. So this is probably the foundation of international trade itself. And ICC came out and said, we need to support digital trade and give rules where you could build solutions to support documentary credit and collections. So you've seen some very interesting companies around the world, like Comgo, Mitigram, as well as us, that can be able to provide functionality to provide documentary credits and collections for banks outside the SWIFT network. There's the African Digital Trade Protocol, which is probably what brought all of us here today and gives makes it an urgent need for us to transition into a digital economy. So we'll go over a few case studies on how these laws have been put into place. So first is Singapore. They were the first to legalize digital title transfer and have since become one of the most important countries in the world or jurisdiction in the world for digital trade. So after the adoption, a few companies have come up. But first, most importantly, they came up with doing the national single window, Trade Trust, working with Crimson Logic, and they've got that framework has been used to digitize other countries' national single windows, including Nigeria, that we are currently in. All this done under the adoption of MLTR, and Singapore was a key foundation for all this. We have Contour Network, one of such private companies that was built in Singapore, which provides blockchain technology. We use blockchain technology to provide digital letters of credit. So this started out as a research project since 2016-17, and offshoots from IBM's Marco Polo and then Coda blockchain. and the R3 network. But when COVID hit, it was imperative for everyone to have a way to transfer documents for trade. And that's where Contour came up. A company built just by banks for LC transactions. And after COVID, it's sprung forth a lot of innovations around digital trade, and other companies came out of it. One of such companies is SALTS, XALTS, that uses AI and AI agents for trade processing and back office operations for banks. This is a more recent case study and one that is closer to home. This was done just last month as well between JP Morgan and MTN South Africa. This was done after New York passed the law approving the Electronic Bill of Exchange Act. They used an electronic bill of exchange for the transaction, and I probably should mention that the first digital trade transaction in the UK was done with a Kenyan tea exporter. So Africa has sort of played some way, but we need to take the front wheel and also build solutions, homegrown solutions for ourselves. So the problem here today, and we all know this, is trade is broken in Africa. We account for just 3% of global trade, and 30% of global trade, 14% of intra-African trade transactions, the least for any other jurisdiction in the world. 30% of trade in Africa is finance compared to the global average of 80%. Recent estimates put that as high as 90. And this gives us a trade finance deficit, trade and credit insurance deficit of $120 billion. When we first started Breeze, this was 80 billion. This is 120 billion now, and just shows that the scale of the problem and it's increasing. But what's the real problem when you look at the foundation of it? Is because we have outdated workflows. There are delays and inefficiencies in the supply chain, which leads to extended working capital cycles, right from the negotiation phase to settlement, a lack of transparency in supply chain. So there's no real-time insights on the paper trail. So documents could be forged or lost even. And then there's the environmental impact of using paper for repeated transactions. So we are partnering with everyone in the supply chain to digitize their trade by digitizing their documents, providing access to financing through transparency, connecting to funders who want to see transparency in supply chains before they release capital, and connecting the continents. So our mission at Breeze is to build a network or an operating system for digital trade to digitize documents and workflows using blockchain technology or distributed ledger technology, and in line with global standards and these legal frameworks. So what does Bridge do? First, we have Origin. We can help create, manage, transfer ownership of digital trade documents, everything from your invoice, your purchase orders, bills of lading, documentary credits, all in compliance with MLETR. Be able to verify these transactions and provide a real-time audit trail on transactions and all the counterparties. And so we're able to add functionalities like signing, stamping, transferring of ownership on them. And then a folder, which is a digital repository to manage trade transactions and workflows, allowing for communication. So what we're doing is to replace paper. That's our mission, to replace paper so that transactions can be faster, more secure, transparent, and built for collaboration with everybody. So our impact is to contribute to a brighter future for all of us on the continent, but even for the rest of the world as well. So let's build the future of trade together, and I'm looking forward to the conversation we have today. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chime. That is very, very eye-opening. I'll just give a bit of context on the first point he talked about. He mentioned the MLETR, that's a model law. This is the thing. I hear a lot of people say, you can apply for bill of lading online in Nigeria now. The issue is not that you can bill of lading online. The issue is whether that bill of lading you're applying for is given to you. You're not even getting it online anyway. The one you are applying for, can it be recognized in another jurisdiction in digital format, not when you print it out? In digital format, will it be recognized in another jurisdiction? So what the MLETR does is it sort of aligns your own legal framework for recognizing those digital documents with the one of the other country, the United States or whichever country is there. And then it then allows everybody in the chain. So we are talking about customs, we're talking about the banks, the shipping lines, and everybody to accept, because anyway, I'll let the next speaker go on, and I'm very sure we'll have a very interesting discussion on these topics today. So Olivier, please, if you restart your presentation, it's over to you now, please. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Welcome.
Thank you. Let me share the document right away. Here. Then you see. Very good. So thanks a lot. I think I have not put my camera on. Let me put it as well. All
right. Your presentation is on now. Thank you.
Thank you. So building on the great presentation before, digital technology, a great way to address indeed some of those gaps mentioned, which are costly. But overall, the key metric is the speed, and which is slowed down by those 5 factors that we saw before that are preventing the trade, and therefore we need to build on those lessons to see how we could accelerate. And the acceleration, of course, can be based on documents, but not sufficient. And there's a lot of activities that need to be orchestrated from the beginning. And the beginning starts on the deal making, and it ends when the money is fully collected. And in between, all the activities that are here listed on funding, ordering, delivering, invoicing, the payment, it remains a big issue for all the parties that we mentioned. And where can new technologies help? I think the big change is certainly brought by artificial intelligence. We know blockchain has existed for the last 15 years, but have not been fully deployed. Artificial intelligence has emerged in the last 3 years, and it's completely changing the world. How? It's changing the world in 3 ways. Number one is risk and compliance can be done in an automated manner at scale, finding all the relevant information to get the trust between the parties. But let's not stop there. It's also about innovation and market making, making sure we can find the relevant parties, the buyers and the sellers, but also the logisticians and the financiers, which have to match their respective requirement. And then we go further, we go into forecast intelligence, including the big problem of stock, but also the matching of demand and supply to make it work best. And of course the money is the issue. Is about funding the trade, but also collecting the money. And people come with one solution, it doesn't work. Africa is so big, diverse. It's not a one size fits all. It's about finding the best fit solution that matches the exact setup of the players. And there are more than 20 options that we easily combine to find exactly the perfect fit. And that enables also to add more elements, in particular insurance is a big one that is underestimated. Allianz Trade estimates at $4.2 trillion of under protected trade. And the financiers want all the audit trail. And it's not sufficient. I think the second big novelty that we have, and yes, it is leveraging blockchain, that's about the payment and the foreign exchange. This one is a big issue, and we're addressing it across the board by syncing it with the goods receipt note, by ensuring that the quantities are verified, but we use smart contracts to automate, and then we use those as well for payments at scale, and of course not just in cryptos, which are not for speculation in this case. They are for overcoming some of the challenges in foreign exchange in particular, but also in speed. Yeah, the cross-border payments are impaired today. And here's an example. An African pineapple producer selling abroad, needed both the clearance on its own activities, which we did at record speed, but also needed to book all its logistics fast enough because it's perishable products, and needed to be secured in the right time frame, but also needed the funding, and the typical big international trade financiers would not give them any funding, and we find a whole series of alternative payment methods that enabled it to get time to dispatch record, no claims, and early dispatch. And then energy is a big topic for Africa, both in terms of need of various countries and in terms of export and therefore revenue generation. And in that case, yes, letters of credit exist, but they tend to be slow, difficult to obtain, and they need to be confirmed by international banks, and they need to be available in US dollars. This makes it very difficult to obtain, and therefore there are alternatives. We find a lot of alternative ways to get it secured, de-risked, for all the parties, and result in not just funding the trade, but doing a reduction in all the costs, including the big problem of demurrage, and near real-time settlement, especially on deep-tier supply chain finance, which means that there are possibilities today. Great regulatory advancement by AfCFTA and the African corridors. There are low-hanging fruits in terms of getting the trade started, recorded, and measure the success in terms of time to onboard, time to cash, time to clear, and therefore right now trade can go as fast as the ambition of the various players. That's it. Be available for the discussion and contacts afterwards. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Olivier. That was very real. That brought a lot of these things home for us. I'll just make a point here, very quick point. As these guys are making their presentations, please do well to note your questions, and at the end of the discussion, we'll take your questions and then take it from there. So that sets us up very nicely for Mr. Toby. Please go on with your presentation, and then we'll get into the discussions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me just share that. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet. Not yet.
Actually, no.
Okay, you could go on. You could get started, and I think it's going to come up anyway.
All right. Can you see it now? Because it's actually on large scale. Okay,
no,
so
okay.
can you see it?
No. Just go on. Just carry on. I think it will come up later.
Okay. All right. So like I said earlier, that I'll be talking from the views of the average Nigerian exporter. So today I'm going to just be presenting on blockchain and AI and the future of trade tech in Africa. Thank you, Olivia and Shima, for doing a good job. So how we want to transform international trade in Africa. So the first thing on my slide is the export reality check, which talks about limited diversification of raw materials and processed goods in Africa. When we look at it from Nigeria, getting processed goods and raw materials from here is really like a big issue or challenge for us to get something that is processed, so because of the infrastructure that goes into that. And then weak infrastructure also is something that is really challenging the export sector in Nigeria currently, and inconsistent policies that we can all see from our government, and trust deficits in global market, prospective buyers not trusting the exporters in the country. And when you look at it, we are talking about the bad roads that we have, which influences the prices in our logistics, finance and funding, insecurities, and all that, and how it affects what we export, the export markets from Nigeria. So I'll be breaking that down. When we look at Nigeria's export challenges, what are the challenges that we are actually facing right now? So currently, as an exporter, we might have to just go through so many paperworks, not having like a platform where you can just get everything at a particular time. So sometimes, in order for us to meet up our freight forwarder to one office, while another person takes another office, just to get all these documents as just to meet with time. Then talking about quality assurance, so several time orders or some export contracts that requires some kind of quality certificates that is actually not available for us to execute the contract at the time. So we are talking about compliance and standards, logistics, and cargo handling, the delays that we experience, the losses and the inefficiencies. And if you are one that exports from time to time, you understand what I mean about delay in logistics. So there are several things that you never plan for, that just happens, and you have your container spending time that you didn't even plan for. Okay, so finance and payment is also part of it, and market access that is breaking into a trusted global platform where you can actually source for buyers abroad. So why are we actually talking about technology and trade? So for Nigeria, for instance, we look at the huge potential that we have, even though this huge potential is not really captured or captivated by the average farmer out there or the common exporter that you have on the road. Like I said earlier, that is not every exporter that really understands how this technology works. And even though they export, every now and then, some make use of, like agents or people to help them with these documentation, certifications, and all that. And this is where things like blockchain come in, where you have various smart contracts that everyone can actually access, and everyone can see the records, and which decreases discrepancy or fraud and all that in the system. That's really crucial and important, because sometimes you have different kind of cases of fraud or fake documentation happening in the system, whereby an exporter, because he just have to listen to whatever his freight forwarder or the freight forwarding agent is telling him or her, cannot really determine what's really happening. So, but in the case of whereby we have something that's blockchain backed, everyone can just come and check what's really happening, what's on record, and track, at every point in time where their shipments, their consignment is. So the bridge between Africa's huge export potential and global competitiveness, and when we combine artificial intelligence and blockchain, it brings about lots of transparency and trust efficiency. So we'll look into AI in export trade, most especially from West Africa and Africa, when we are talking about artificial intelligence and how it influences international trade. So compliance automation is one, AI tools for documentation and standard validation. So when you look at we trying to get documentation really it's not sometimes easy. The system is not seamless, like I mentioned about the single window earlier. So and sometimes you can't even determine between the real documents and the fake documents. So there are sometimes I'll get some documents, I'll look at it, I'll have to go and bring copies of previous shipment and place them side by side and say looks like something is really different here. And there are some documents that you might have forgotten. Yes, that's happened before in some of our shipment where you forget. By the time you DHL the whole documents to your buyer, that's when you discover something is missing. And sometimes we find a way to work around it. Sometimes we have to just get the document and send it. So, but with artificial intelligence, it can recommend, it can sort out all this documentation for us. And when we look at market matching is actually something that is really, we don't have lots of platforms out there doing that yet. That it's something that should attract Nigerian exporters or African exporters to a particular platform where they can get buyers for their products, whatever they are producing or the commodities they intend to export. Then demand forecasting and process optimization. Demand forecasting in the sense of predicting demand in foreign markets, reducing waste and losses. Because sometimes, like this year, for instance, lots of exporters made some losses storing up some commodities because they actually felt like the price will keep going on, but because of one or two things that happens to the currency, when the currency, when everybody thought the naira would keep falling, but it gained, so the price of commodities, it crashed. While it crashed, lots and lots of exporters lost money in their warehouse and all that. So it helps with demand forecasting and processing optimization. And blockchain in export trade. When we look at blockchain, so we are talking about finance and payments for blockchain-backed finance. So like Breeze, for instance, why the co-founder was talking about MLETR, the model and the operations, how it works and how it would be good if it's something that's really backed by blockchain. Because sometimes even when you approach banks, commercial banks in Nigeria for finance, for funding, sometimes you don't even get the right staff to talk to because not all the bank staffs are even trained to understand trade finance in the first place. So I've been in a position where around 2019 or 2020, I think I had to be going from one bank branch. I don't want to mention the bank. Then I was using that bank then, and we needed to, to do a shipment, a particular shipment that was urgent. And while I was, moving around from branch to branch, they were just passing me, from one branch to another branch because for every branch I entered, there is nobody to actually attend to what I needed. So I ended up going to the headquarters in VI. After getting to the headquarters, I was still directed, from the headquarters that, the trade desk is for the global buyer and um, what
operations. And keeping in mind, Olivier talked about the entire value chain. He talked about from making the deal, right through to payment. So I would just take it from there. What is the single biggest roadblock for you as an African trader that you found, that you've seen, that's African trader faces when they are trying to digitize the operation from beginning to end? So what's the biggest roadblock for you?
Okay, so for me, what I would say is the biggest challenge when we are talking about exporting from Nigeria, it's going to be in the aspect of finance, because all other challenges, when you look at it, can still be maneuvered by Nigerian exporters, by African exporters. We can still do that, but when it comes to the aspect of finance, without finance, nothing can happen. So several times we have to just leave some export contract. Even export contracts, that is profitable, you just have to leave it because you don't have enough financial muscle to pull through. And sometimes even it happens. I've seen this happen a lot, whereby the importer will even give you a letter of credit. We'll give the exporter a letter of credit, but we'll request for a bond, like an LC bond, to cover the LC, and even the exporter will not be able to even raise that LC bond, maybe 2% of the total worth of the LC. So this happens a lot. So if the finance parts for exporters is really covered, they can do a lot.
Okay, so you are saying that the where digitalization can have the most impact is in finance.
Yes, okay. because it's if digitization it really works in finance, then when you go to banks, for instance, and you present an export contract to them, maybe it's cash against document through bank, even if the importer has paid your advance payment, let's say 60% advance and or 30% advance, and you need maybe 20% more, 30% more, the bank still won't give you that money without some form of collateral that you might not be able to provide at the end of the day. So it's yes.
All right, thank you so much. Before I come back to you, Dr. Sand, let's hear from the people who have technology that are solving these problems today. So I'll take it from Olivier's point of view. How are you trying to solve this finance issue that Toby has raised?
And that's at the core and start of the process. So it's fundamental. Otherwise, the trade is not happening, which is still part of the $2.5 trillion finance gap globally, 120, as Kim was saying, for Africa. It's a big issue. And the one problem is that typically there's not enough information to get the traditional financiers to provide the money. And by the time all the documents are collected, the opportunity is gone and the trader has missed it. So using technology to completely change the approach, which is not just document based, it has to be information based before the documentation can be finalized. And that's a complete change in mindset. Firstly, because the banks have essentially worked for decades on documents called documentary collection, not knowing what the reality is behind, just based on documents. The reality now is that technology enables to address the reality that is not yet documented. And that's the paradigm shift, which you take from the beginning in trying to find the right solution that addresses all the risk across the board, addresses the need for financing, not just between the buyer and the seller, but across the board at several levels in the supply chain. Example would be you fund some of the seller, you fund the trader, you fund the buyer. Sometimes we go and fund the buyer of the buyer. You know, so it becomes complicated, intellectually challenging, I would say, and operationally extremely complicated to do. But that's where technology comes. We do it at hundreds of deals articulated around a trade easily. Example. Take a logistics company that is associated with it. They come as the last player in the game, and they are, you know, when they deliver the goods, they are the ones who can stop it because they are so afraid of not being paid that they say, look, I have the goods, that's my only lever in the whole transaction to ever hope to be paid. And therefore, if you're not, it's very concrete, very pragmatic. But I talk to logisticians all the time. Their big worry is that one, they don't get paid. And if you take, it could be a truck, and that's a small company that gets it. It could be a full tanker, And in that case, I can guarantee you that they have all the means for the offloading of the ship until they get the full payment, and therefore. You've got a myriad of players to interact with, for which you need to address their risk, their funding requirement, their supply chain constraints, the concrete payment, because it could be that the ship owner is based in another country that you need to pay across borders, even more complicated, for which the standard KYB are not even fit because you pay an entity that is not the legal entity that owns the boat. Okay. 4 different legal entities need to address, and the standard banks have one model. The big, international traders have one model. They don't escape from that model, and therefore anything else is a lost opportunity. It's an opportunity for the young innovators here on this field, and some of them on the audience who are open-minded to look into alternative options that provided they are risk-free.
That's a very enlightening. I'll just add here this issue of finance, as Olivier was talking about. I think one of the key things that technology does or can help us do is to verify who is who, before we even get into the transaction bit of things. So now we're having things like digital identity, and we don't really hear a lot of legal entity identifier discussed in Africa, and I think that's one area that we need to actually look at. Okay, before I start running on this discussion, please, Chime, you are also in the tech side of things. Tell us your own, how you are trying to solve this issue as well. And then we'll go on to Dr. Sand to sort of coalesce everything for us. All right, Chime, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Toby and Olivier had really good presentations. Toby highlighted it. He said that, or rather, Olivier highlighted about transparency and talking about also the workflows itself, rather. But then at the end of the day is if the person that is dropping money wants to have full assurance that he's putting money for a transaction that's going to close and consummate, that's the most important thing. So it doesn't matter whether we're going to put it digital or physical or anything. From the capital's perspective, he's coming in for returns. And the way we look at it in Africa, I mean, that's where we have the best returns. I mean, that's if you're an investor coming in to go into SCF, you're going to look at Africa, have a really good look at Africa. But aside chasing the returns, you have a responsibility to make sure that what you're doing, I mean, you're doing it with full. They have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure you're making the right decisions, and then that transparency is what gives you that responsibility. Now, with the example Olivier just mentioned, with the say freight forwarder that could come in and mess up a shipment, it's very, very common. You would see it happening even in smaller transactions, much smaller international international transactions. But then Fonda had full transparency of all the parties that was involved in the transaction, and they need to have that full transparency to make good decisions and pricing the risk properly. They need to know the warehouse agent, the freight forwarder, the insurer, and everything. That's where we come in to build it. But beyond that, it's also in the workflows itself and the automation and making sure that I think Toby talked about like being the farmers and everyone being new to the being transitioning to these technologies. The technologies are there. And what you see in like in the West is these technologies are there, but they are not in any way fashioned for SMEs. Technology works itself, but then the experience itself matters, and then the incur high cost because there's also a cost to technology without that. So there has to be a marriage of all these things, having solutions that target the lower end of the market, because the end goal is towards transparency, and marrying these workflows, even though I mean there are reasons why large companies have complex workflows and solutions. There are reasons why they're there, but then AI literally comes in to solve that. You could have a small freight forwarder that's probably processing, maybe can't even process more than 10 transactions in a month. It's not even possible operationally wise. But then because of this, now they're able to fast track through things, and even from a banker's perspective, they're able to say, okay, we can accurately price transactions better. Is I think about 2 years ago, we contract to supply a rice mill, and this was I'm going to offtake from an exchange, community exchange, and on paper this was the best transaction you could look at, and we shipped this transaction, went to different funders, private equity banks, even went to a mortgage bank, and the way they were able to, I think one of them is on the call too, but I think the way they were able to do their risk and compliance was they had to call the MD, they had to call someone. And then imagine if I didn't know the person, I'm just there trying to get the man doesn't know my name, and it looks like I brought a fraudulent transaction when that isn't the case. And the MD himself might be a busy person, but not even know my name. And we didn't get the funding for it, even in spite of all that due diligence and everything, for a transaction that makes sense on paper. Because okay, how are we sure? How are we this? How can you? Well, all these things, I mean, if there's transparency in it, the funder is more willing to take that risk. So there's that capital access part, but there's also that cost of capital point of view, where like, okay, if they're going to say this is a risky charge you like or which is a lot. I mean that 150% is a lot that could really change the margins and the profits for the business. So I think there has to be a marriage of blockchain for the efficiency reasons, AI for workflows, efficiency and transparency, and AI for workflows. But then we also have to understand that, you know, when we're talking about trade tech, everything, blockchain, AI, we're forgetting that the last mile is the farmers, and then that's actually where the aggregation starts from. We're forgetting that there are other key personas like the inspection agents as well, and other few people. So I think the whole ecosystem digitizing makes it easier. It's just natural. Capital flows where the returns are going to be there, and then where that makes sense to them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Dr. Sand. Okay, what I'm going to ask you now is, okay, so we heard from the technology people. Now what I want to ask you, Dr. Sand, is, so what is the issue? Why do we have a dearth of adoption of technology? Is it a lack of access to the technologies, or is it the high cost, or is it something more fundamental? Because you are in the ecosystem, you have a clear view. So please, go on.
Interesting conversation so far. I would have wanted participants that have stayed to the course to also intervene by maybe either asking questions or also sharing their thoughts. But first, I would say, listening to everyone, I realized that there is it's not that there's no solution. Trust for me stands out. So the consumers of the technology trust the system, and even those that should put policies in place to see that the system is effective, trust it. Now, Chime just mentioned a classical example, which is the reality of most Africans. It's not just peculiar to Nigerians, where even when you go to the bank to seek for opportunity, they will do their compliance, do everything. They're not still convinced, and you waste your time, waste your resources, and they don't give you the money, and you lose good business because there is a deficiency of trust. And you did mention something. Who are we? Who am I, Asand? Do I have a digital identity that someone can just plug in, put my date of birth, just like in Europe or Global North, and know who I am? Can I identify? Can I be identified digitally and even in person? So trust for me is a big issue, and I think at this point, let's open up the conversation in the house for other people to weigh in. But fundamentally, we must address this issue of trust. How do we go about it? Technology should be able to help, but can we trust the technology to help us do it? Maybe we should be able to develop a homegrown technology or plug it into already existing, because AI is already there. I was in a Niger Fest over the weekend where we talked about technology, AI, filmmaking, content creation, and the likes. We say, who owns it? So bringing international party component to it, the subtle piracy that goes on. So there's a lot of discussions that a system of trust. How do we create a system of trust? Let's have a single digital identity that speaks to every one of us. Every other one can remain, but let one stand out. And I think someone has raised his hand up, and we're like, let's have that. If you create a system, for example, you can't go to Europe with I don't know what they call it now. You have a code with your date of birth. People can identify you. You just go to the bank and they give you a facility because they know the bank cannot give you this facility because they don't even know. Even when they know you're speaking to someone and you trust, we have to find a way of addressing this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Fine. Before we go to the person raising his hand, there's this issue of trust. It's not just Nigeria. You have to be trusted here in Nigeria. They have to know who you are. But there, your partner over there, say in Cote d'Ivoire or wherever, he has to be able to key into that same system and know that this person is who he says. So there is a whole lot of. I'll give the floor to Imo Akpan. Please, you have a question. Raise your hand. Please go ahead, please.
Okay, so I wanted to say something about what Mr. San said about database, being able to access information about someone through maybe use of their date of birth and name. We already have that. That's the NIN and BVN. But the difference between us and the Global North now is the fact that in the Global North, they have middlemen who offer the service of enabling citizens, everyday citizens, to look up BVN database couldn't get true numbers. We have to use Truecaller. So that's also what I wanted to contribute.
Okay, to that point, what I would say before I leave for our experts to talk about, what I would say about that is one issue we have with the NIN and the BVN and the CACRC number and all of these little identity identifiers we have here is they don't speak to each other. That's the major issue we have, right? So the BVN and the NIN, they're not talking to each other. The what's it called? The CAC and the NIMC NIN, they've been trying to marry those two things forever. Like you go to the CAC website and there's always this message, the NIMC thing, we are still trying to connect it. So till today, they are still trying to connect these two systems together and we don't have that base connection yet. So it's, let me leave it for.
Which?
Okay, so, okay, go on, please.
Which person's name do they normally put?
Sorry, come again, please. Okay, we can't hear you very well.
I think you can carry on. You're muted.
Okay, sorry. I was saying that okay, Imo seemed to be having issues with his audio, so I'll let the panel take it up from where I stopped on the issue that Mr. Imo raised, the issue of identity, NIN, and BVN. Let's have your thoughts, please. Mr. Sand, you first.
Okay, I believe there is an ongoing effort towards that. Is it fast enough? Has it been democratized to the level of there are middlemen, just like Imo mentioned? We are not there yet because, for example, you cannot have a new international passport without having your NIN correspond with your detail with the immigration, with the interior affair. You cannot register for JAM now for the young folks without having an NI number. So they are making effort, but it's not fast enough, and it is not. There's no middleman where I personally can want to verify, or a bank want to verify and pay little to verify who Peter is. That is not there yet. So I believe this is where AI and blockchain will help. So can we accept this and integrate into our system where someone can just pay with 15 naira just to verify and check people out? And that will go a long way. Of course, putting some security measures in place. Again, one of the things that Toby said, I also think we should not lose sight of, is the area of market matching. Because access to market is one big thing, again, where exporters are encountering challenge. So if AI can also help with market matching, these are also providing with digital identity, helping people gain access to finance, you can see that we can accelerate this aspect of what we export and how we get people to buy and deliver the order. Not talking about logistic components of this, which of course, without access and insecurity, but if we can start building up on these little blocks, using AI, using technology, will go a long way. So market matching is a big thing, but he said there are not a lot of firms here. Who are the people in the Olivia? Have I thought about this, or Chime thought about creating technology that will create this accessibility to market for business people when it comes to international trade? I want them to comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Olivier and Chime, this is for both of you. So I'll start with Chime. Now, we know this identity thing is a big issue. Now, my question would be, how is your technology addressing that specific issue? And yeah, where do you see the roadblocks in this BVN, NIN, CAC ecosystem we have currently, or the identity ecosystem we have currently? Go on, please.
Okay. How we are addressing it currently is we are focusing on documents for now, trade documents and the likes. But then this is something that has to be there. So we are partnering with companies that will do that. But the thing is, identity is very important. Why is identity important for trade? Apart from fraud, apart from trying to know who you are for a gift capital, trade is a good place for money laundering and terrorism financing. So it's extremely important to know who is who, which vessel is which vessel itself, not even just entities, in individuals and even vessels themselves. So we're partnering with companies that have that core technology, PEP screening and the likes for internationally. When it comes to locally, they have, like, we all acknowledge, we all know NIN, we all know BVN. The technologies are there. There's a reason why they're not connecting with each other. They're different companies, different everything, but then the government has understood that it's needed. If they were like a school with it before, nothing probably explains why they need to do it more than the kidnappings and the likes and trying to track people. So yes, they are working on that. This is something that to some degree the infrastructure has to be public sector led, and then there has to be private sector individuals who are seeing an opportunity to come in and provide ways for verification, quick verification. We also understand that there are reasons why that is not open source. It can't just, people will stop people. So there are still framework, I think, with NIDA and NDPRA on why and how to get access to this data. But then when it comes to identity, you mentioned LEIs, and LEIs is a very interesting topic, a very interesting subject, because that's sort of like the global CAC. That's the best way to put it. But then we haven't really, there hasn't been a lot of adoption really in Africa for that. I think there's only one company mandated to do the onboard clearinghouse. But I think when you look at digital trade, it's something that is going to be needed in order to look at the interoperability and managing the system. So while you guys were talking about them communicating with each other, I was thinking from the perspective of even the regulatory agencies for trade, because they also need to know who you are for a different reason. So SON, Standard Organization, NAFDAC, there's customs and the likes. So you see there's BODOGU, there's this, there's that. That's kind of how it is when it comes to identity. But then, I mean, there's political will towards being a national single window, because it really doesn't make sense to have everything. It's those away the benefits for that. But when it comes to LEIs, I personally think that it's something that we all have to adopt. But my personal opinion on it is like expensive. Like I don't know if Toby and his group are going to be paying $150 every year renewing to show that you have a business.
Yeah.
There has to be frameworks to really accommodate. Like I said, a lot of these frameworks aren't even thinking about emerging markets when you come to things on technology, the experience, the pricing, and the like. So, yeah, there's still more work that has to be done.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chime. LEIs in Nigeria, I think we have about 800 and something registered companies. Yeah,
it's
and,
just
and
public
then,
companies.
yeah, it's those companies that are trading on the stock exchange. I think mostly those are the ones currently. But yeah,
I
you
want to add
yeah, go
and
on, please.
mention that open banking is something that I think does a lot to solve this identity thing. So we know of companies like OnePipe, Mono, or even Paystack and open banking. With BVNs, you could easily verify the identity of this person, this persona, and I mean, so you can't run away from identity when you want to even look at who is signing what. Like when it comes to digital trade, you need to know the identity of that person that is signing. So it's not just a random person that is making big decisions in an organization.
Okay, thank you so much. You mentioned, I think you were the first, you mentioned Singapore and those countries they have, and including this is Estonia. They have some very interesting systems there that, okay, we'll not talk about that now because we'll be going to a different dimension. Please, Olivier, I want your take, because in your presentation, I saw KYC, know your customer and anti-money laundering issues. I want to know how is your platform solving that challenge, and within the context of African traders, how does your platform Trading Loop, how do you solve that challenge for African traders?
Yes, thanks a lot. I think we evoked one dimension, which is the identity verification. So I don't want to elaborate more. I think that's pretty clear. I think beyond that, it's a lot about the other dimensions. And at the end of it, what is crucial is for the payment to be compliant. And therefore, it's a matter of, from the beginning, to address the different dimensions. And we have developed the model based on the best practices that has 8 different dimensions to it, that enables to quickly map it out in such a way that there are transactions that we don't qualify very quickly, and therefore we're not wasting any time. And there are, as we progress, we refine it. When there is a trade financier, it has to be 100% done as well. And in that case, we automate a lot of the collection of information. We use artificial intelligence to analyze as well. We leverage some of the online platforms, of course, but there's a lot of analytics that we do. And what is missing in the overall ecosystem is the scoring. So we've developed a scoring that enables us to quantify the level of data completeness that we have, and then the level of exposure that there is. Yeah, what is the risk score that exists in the end across those dimensions? And we provide that piece of, it's not a piece of information, it's a complete package. Yeah, it's a package of information validated with all the relevant backing that we provide to each and every of the required parties in a selected basis. So the logistician would want to do his KYB with the parties, we do it in advance and provide it. The financier only with some parties. So you have, in the more than 25 stakeholders involved, we address the pairs of players that need to do the KYB together, and that's the one we automate as well, so that there's no time lost. Back to the speed of ambition, I think that's the one which delays, including on the payments. And if you have to wait for the payment request to start the KYB process, I promise you that your transaction is not going to be on time.
Right, thank you so much. Okay. Now over to you, Toby. Okay, so I'm going to bring it from this perspective. We heard about the low-hanging fruits, and we saw it in representations as well. Now, as an active exporter, so what is the lowest hanging fruit? I mean, where do you think we can really take this from? What's the lowest hanging fruit that Nigerian exporters can access, and it will have the most impact in terms of TradeTech, in terms of adopting technology? We know, obviously, we talked about finance, we talked about payments, but what, in your own opinion, what is the fastest way to adopting TradeTech, or TradeTech in exports in Nigeria today or in Africa?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Peter. So I'm going to say, okay, so several times I get like people send me DMs and say maybe they are building some things and they want me to look through it and give them feedback. So oftentimes these technologies, they are very, very good, but the issue I always have with most TradeTech is that how will these exporters come to your platform, or what's going to attract them to come to your platform in the first place? So it's not really about the solution. The solution is nice. I've seen a lot of fintech products for exporters. Once I go through it right from the spot, I'll just tell them this is not going to work. Because why? There has to be something that attracts them in the first place. So like, for instance, Breeze, I got to know about it because I downloaded the TechPoint report. So I was doing some analysis with the TechPoint report. So that's how I got to know the company. But how many people read reports like that? So you have to look at it from there. So if one of the biggest challenges for the average Nigerian exporters, because like I said in my introduction, that I'm an international trade educator, so we do a lot of trainings every now and then. And what students ask, their first question is that, if I come for this training, are you going to give me a buyer? If I come for this training, am I going to get export contracts? So usually we just tell them that, what we do is training. We train you through the curriculum. We have some theoretical curriculum. We have some practical curriculum, but we won't promise you buyers. Though I've built my business to a level that I get export contracts every now and then. I get buyers every now and then. So I just tell them, okay, you know what? If I get a profitable contract during the period you are doing your training, and you have the money, you have the financial capacity to actually pull it through, I place it in your laps and you go with it. So now the biggest challenge is for most people is that they can't get buyers. That's the first thing. So I've trained old people, I've trained young people, I've trained the ones that are financially capable, I've trained those that are not financially capable. So the thing is the buyer. So if you can create a platform, a technology platform where I know, or that I can even, like I was taking a class yesterday on sourcing for international buyers for Nigerian exporters for one of my students. So while I was taking her on that training, because it was a practical session, we were going through several different platforms. I could not point her to a Nigerian startup. There used to be one sometimes back, but it is no longer functioning. There there were some, yeah, there were like about 3 to 4 that I knew about, but they are no longer like functioning anymore. So I couldn't point out. It was a pain in my heart. I felt it in my heart while I was taking hard. I couldn't point out to a Nigerian startup that, go to this startup. You are going to get buyer. List your commodities. Put it there that you can export cashew nuts, you can export sesame seeds, you can export copper or lithium, iron, aluminum, and you get buyers from there. So the first thing I will say, which average Nigerian exporters know, or African exporters know, that if I come here and I list my commodity that is in my environment, that is in my state, I'll get international buyers for it. I'll get buyers from China. I'll get someone from Vietnam. I'll get someone from Bangladesh, from Japan, from these countries that we usually export to easily without stress, even if they have to pay for it. No, now you need to also understand Nigerians don't actually mind paying. They will pay. They will subscribe. Because like yesterday, for instance, one of my students wanted to subscribe for Alibaba's membership program, and that Alibaba's membership program, it cost me, if you look at it compared to Naira. So it's not like they don't want to pay, but if they know that they are going to get that on the platform. So if you now have a platform like that, that USP, that solution can attract exporters to your platform. When it attracts exporters to your platform, that's when you can now them on export finance, on trade finance, on fintech, on different kind of solutions. But you need something that will bring those export platform in the first place, that will bring them in drove. So that's the best thanking for me.
Thank you so much. I think that ties back into what Olivier was talking about as well, when he said go back to the very beginning of the transaction, and that's quite interesting. Really, that's quite interesting because the thing with network effects, the question is it the chicken or the egg that came first? So is it the buyers that came first, or is it the sellers, or is it the people that want to do finance, or people, that kind of thing? So this is a very interesting take on this. Dr. Sand, what's your opinion on the lowest hanging fruits? You are still muted. You are still muted, please.
So Tobias, am I okay now? Am I audible? I think yes. I've muted. So Tobias expatiated on this the issue and access to buyers, access to market, which I mentioned earlier on. And I believe technology can help with this, but who built that technology is expensive. And maybe at this point, I would also mention that one of the major stakeholder we can bring to the table is maybe the bank. I think not that maybe the bank and the government. Because if without a bank supporting a platform that can pull people together, it will not happen because it's expensive. So who wants to start investing in that with the expectation that they will then get the credibility to stand? So maybe through tax relief, that's where government comes in. Then the bank then says, okay, this is our own system that we want to create. And the bank must understand that technology has come to stay, just like when they were waving aside the fintech. It's now every one of them have to have a fintech system, or they bought over one fintech company that supports their services. So the same thing with trade. So with AfCFTA, which is a $3.2 trillion market, the bank has to start taking trade very serious and creating a platform. It's not just creating a platform for creating, it's creating a platform that really have true buyers and bringing them together. So that they'll be able to transact. So I'm not going to go into the dimension of payment now, how you receive payment and the service, the charges that are involved, because that's on that different bubble. But we have apps that we can work with for now, where every bank has to plug in. It's not about you, just so that when someone buys, he can easily get paid easily. When someone's sick, he can pay, and it's not the bank charges that we should focus on, because that's what most banks focus on. as well as it's not the tax that the government should focus on. It's about making sure that this system of connecting buyers and sellers is easily done. So what we have is having an effective platform that stands the test of time. I can the platform that Toby mentioned that were there before that are no more is because they lack funds. There was no people were not patronizing them because they don't have access to finance and they were not upgrading. So if you're not upgrading your system, because technology is like it's like cosmetic or fashion. There are new trends that happen every day and they're expensive. So government has to come in and say, okay, we're giving not just 3 years tax relief, you're giving like 10 years tax relief, and also give them access to funding, which the bank has to come in to arrange your funds to support these platforms to be able to offer services for say 10 years. So by then, they will have gotten enough credibility in the industry to be able to bear their own costs going forward. Because of time, we have to start wrapping up. At this point, I would say
I actually have something to say.
Okay, go ahead.
on the topic. So, I mean, the lowest hanging fruit really is always going to be the government doing it. The government has to do foundation. They're saying that after God is government. So the national single window is pretty much the first step that has to be done. Because even if you're going to be, this is my experience, like we'll build or talking and to use it, a big company, they're going to say, oh, you have to, I want to have standard organization added in here. I want to have NAFTA. I want to add this. And then you sit down and realize that you're now building national single window yourself. To some degree. So that open framework has to be there first, because there would now be a need for people to want to, just like when it came with Nitel and telecommunications. That's the first step, the lowest hanging fruit. But like we said, all the benefits for the merchant. The merchant really doesn't care too much about the efficiency, so to say. Trade is not, it's not like you're ordering food from Jumia. It's not going to be done in 1 week. It's not going to be done in 30 seconds or 30 minutes or something. They are naturally open to the time. So efficiency is a good sell, but it's not often the best sell. What the merchant wants is funding. That's the only thing they care about. If you're bringing funds, they're going to talk to you, whether you're going to do USSD code or anything. So like say, you have to marry all these things, but none of that happens without the government first building that foundation first. But everybody still has to build and innovate along the lines. But thank God, I think we have the National Single Window project that is there, and then to do a lot towards bringing in digital trade.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just a second, Peter, because this national single window, there's also this resistance or this skepticism that has to do with where is domicile? Is domicile with the taxman because single window is domicile with FRS. So the idea now is let's generate funds. Is the idea to generate funds or to generate a seamless ecosystem that brings everyone together? Because customs should be able to administer and process and facilitate trade. Facilitation should be the words of custom. But why inland revenue or federal finance, they're changing their name. I don't know what they're
doing. NRC or something.
Yes, NRC, whatever it is to generate funds. Is the idea for single window just to generate funds, because very soon they'll start having target. Oh, we have to have target to generate $50 million a year in a day, $50 million in a day. So you see funds that should ordinarily cost maybe 2 naira now become like 10 naira because you want to generate $50 million a day. Because this guy.
I would say that this whole conversation on government and revenue is a very interesting conversation, but people forget sometimes the government's own job sometimes is also to generate revenue. That's also a function of government. But I think this is my personal opinion on why it's done that way is there are a lot of other agencies that are involved, SON that do have revenue collecting duties, and then there's the tax element inside the customs excises and all the likes. Normally, and even when it comes to trade, last few years, we were saying that customs won't agree with this because of certain reasons on how they operate. Oh, this person won't. I think first thing, so let's have a central person first, because it's good to let's know it's one person collecting the money instead of you're hearing this, you're hearing that, you're hearing this, you're hearing that. But then this is what I say when this conversation comes up, and they also say to us is that customers are reaching out to is that you can't charge. We talked about the price element when you look at other jurisdictions, and here it's very important. You have to be price sensitive. But I think I started out by saying 2020 when we started Breeze, our pitch was trade finance deficit was 80 billion. 2025, you're saying 120 billion. So the pie is going to get bigger. The more transactions they're doing, if they do it at $2, for instance, or $2 for instance, if there are 10x more transactions, 20x more transactions, everybody is good. But I think we should all understand that the government is still going to generate revenue for this because there will be costs towards handling the systems. I think my own fear with the NSW is really adoption from the private sector, because if the private sector doesn't adopt it, everybody's going to go back to the old way of doing things and be lax, and there will be now reasons for it. So we all have to, I think this conversation we've had is very, very timely, very timely, okay. Very, very important conversation.
All right, okay, thank you so much, everybody. There's a whole lot of things we could still discuss on these issues. Now, I think what I've picked from here is there is a whole lot of things going on in silos. You know, Toby is doing his own, Olivier is doing something, Chime is doing something, Sad is doing something, Peter is doing something. And there's not a whole lot of collaboration, especially when it comes to, and I think what Chime, your solution, I think there's a bridge. You mentioned, you talked about the thing being a bridge. And I think one of the key issues here that we need to really address, and I think this has come up from this conversation for me, is the need to collaborate more. Everybody on this platform right now, you know, having the discussion needs to be a part of that collaboration, needs to be a part of making this happen. So when Toby talks about the lowest hanging fruit being the buyers, connecting buyers and sellers, and then, you know, the finance and all of that, obviously, Chime is doing something in the area of documentation and finance, and Olivier is doing stuff in the. Then there is that need for collaboration. So we cannot be talking about this going forward from this discussion. We cannot be talking about this in isolation anymore. We have to be talking about this as a unit. You know, create that platform for everybody to come to the table and, you know, bring you what you have and, you know, tell us the gaps. Let's all close the gaps together. Just before I hand over to Dr. Sand, I want to just say a very big thank you to all our amazing panelists. You guys have been wonderful, really. You've shared a lot of insights. And you've moved us from a theoretical understanding of TradeTech to the real practical aspects of it. So, so thank you so much. Now we know that TradeTech is not just theory, it's the real deal. It's not just a tool, it's the thing that will enable collective prosperity for all of us. So thank you once again, and to everybody that has joined us from wherever you've been joining us, please, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Olivier, thank you. Toby, thank you. Chime, thank you. And Dr. Sand, I'll hand over to you to close it up with your closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow, it has been a very insightful and educating one. Just stepping it up, this has brought to the fore one of the important parts that we have challenges, but we must devise solutions to address them, especially when it comes to trade. Africa cannot be, and vis-a-vis Nigeria cannot be a passive consumer, say, technologies, because our challenges are unique. And I thank you very much, Oliver, for those solutions that are bringing, because contextualizing in African reality, because your design, you cannot find into consideration what is going on in Africa. So we are designing our own, we're leading the conversation. AfCFTA IP protocol is giving us the opportunity to have that, to reflect our reality when it comes to technology. Chima, I thank you very much, because you did mention that you are working with other government agencies in terms of you verified that paper, but that can be used to even for digital identity. So, and you also said that there are work ongoing for data protection, and that we empower entrepreneurs to be able to leverage the opportunity. Thank you for that, bringing us to speed on that. And Toby, you're on the street, you're at the same time taking people. I also have a stream. I don't want to go into my experience of one of those challenges that I had some years back, where we're exporting and we had a regulation on the radio that a ban has in place, and we lost about 20 containers just like that, just like that, without any pre-warning. So, and you tell people, and that trust element part of it. But again, AI is here, blockchain technology is here. How we make these speak to themselves, as Peter, you said, is another thing. But we started the conversation. We'll continue having the conversation. We'll draw the policy brief from here, which we'll share and make public. Because one of the things that people say is that when you look at for how to solve issues in Africa, you don't see the ones that speak to African context, because we don't publish, we don't write. And as a think tank, we say, no, we will write, we'll put out this information and organize these conversations, because by discussing it, will bring us solutions. So fantastic discussion, fantastic opportunity to hear from every one of us. We're creating a collaboration, we're really creating an ecosystem. So we hear more from us. We also integrate into one of the studies that we are doing that will also inform policy in terms of digital identity, digital payment, and governance system across the border, not just for Nigeria, but how do Africa data speak to themselves. We're working with Office of the VP to make this happen. And we'll be reaching out to each of you bilaterally to see how we can be able to feed into this fantastic evening that I've had, learned a lot, and I wish us all a fantastic day ahead. Don't know where you are, but I know majority now are maybe in Africa, but as it is, wishing us a fantastic day ahead. I don't know if the technical group have taken picture, because everybody has escaped from the room, but again, thank you. I appreciate it in no small measure. Looking forward to working more with you guys, and as well as engaging. Look for yeah, so bye-bye for now.
All right.
So maybe turn your camera on. Let's just take a picture. I don't know if they've taken a picture while where we are speaking, but yeah, turn your camera on. Favor, have we? Toromade? Right. Okay.
All right.
It should be done now.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.